Chicken stock is delicious, nutritious, and so very easy to make. So let's get to making some. I start by putting the chicken carcasses that we've been saving in these two stock pots. When we cook a chicken, we usually just eat the breast, leg quarters, and wings and have the carcass left over. Sometimes I go ahead and make chicken and noodles, but most often I freeze the carcasses until we get enough together to make a big batch of stock to can. To each pot, I will add a medium onion cut into quarters. I leave the skin on to add nutrition and color. I will also add dehydrated celery because I don't have any fresh celery. And I'm adding some canned carrots because I'm trying to get rid of them. If you have fresh vegetables, go ahead and use them. You will get the same results. I also add a few bay leaves and some garlic for extra flavor. I'm not adding any salt or pepper at this point, but you could. I will add those when I use the stock in the end product. Then I add enough water to each pot to cover the chicken, although the vegetables want to float, but that's fine. Then on goes the lid and I turn the fire on high until the liquid comes to a boil. Then I decrease the heat to a simmer. This will simmer for the next 24 hours to extract as much flavor and nutrients as possible. After 24 hours, I turn off the heat and strain the solids out of the stock. Once I remove the onions and the bones, the dog will be eating very well on the pieces of chicken that come off of the bones. Nothing goes to waste. You can strain the stock through cheesecloth to get nearly all of the solids out, but I have this fine mesh strainer that I do the initial straining. I found that cheesecloth tends to get clogged up pretty quickly, so I strain everything twice without cheesecloth. Because I've made so much stock, I wash the stock pot out and then use a very fine mesh strainer to finish the job. Because this very fine mesh strainer is so small and won't fit across the pot, and the farmer helps me to get the last little bit strained.
Towards the camera. When you have the camera in.
Look at you on YouTube doing everything. It's funny.
Now to strain the second pot. I need to cool the stock down so that the fat will solidify on top and I can skim it off. And since there is so much of it, we divided it into the two pots and put them into the refrigerator overnight. The next morning I skim off the fat on the surface of the stock. Look at how much gelatin is in that stock. This will make some delicious soup. After most of the fat is removed, I need to heat the stock up to boiling again. Because meat and meat products are low acid, they must be pressure canned to be safe. And broth is done with a hot pack method, which means hot jars, hot food, and hot water in the canner. It's important that everything be about the same temperature to decrease the risk of a broken jar. Once all of the jars are filled, leaving an inch of headspace, I wipe the rims with a paper towel soaked with vinegar. It is impossible to get all of the fat out of the liquid, and the rims of the jars must be squeaky clean to get a good seal. Bits of food or fat on the rim can cause a seal failure, and while you can reprocess the jars that fail, no one has the time for that. Then I place a new lid on each jar and apply a ring to finger tight only. If the ring is too tight or too loose, you risk a seal failure. Just tighten it with the tips of your fingers. My canner will hold 16 regular mouth pint jars in 2 layers. It is very important to place a rack on the bottom of the canner and another rack in between the layers of jars. This will decrease the risk of broken jars and failed seals. Place the lid onto the canner per your manufacturer's instructions. Do not put the weight on it this time. Turn the heat to medium to slowly increase the temperature inside the canner. Once the water comes to a boil, you will see steam starting to escape through the vent. It is very important to wait until the stream of steam becomes steady and not intermittent. The air in the canner must be completely replaced with steam in order to properly can your food. The intermittent stream means that some steam is escaping, but also some air. Once most of the air is out, you will see a steady stream of steam. At this point, allow the canner to vent for a full 10 minutes to make sure all the air is out. Now it's time to apply your weight to the vent. If you have a gauged pressure canner and live at 1,000 feet elevation or below, you need to keep the pressure above 11 psi and up to 13 psi. The amount of pressure you need depends on your elevation. I've created a canning checklist that can help you make sure you followed all the steps to ensure your home canned food is safe and nutritious. If you'd like a copy, I will leave a link in the description so you can get one. Some canners have a weight that dances a hula when it reaches the correct pressure. I have a gauge, but I also have the hula dancing 10 psi weight to let me know that I am within the correct range. Again, refer to your manufacturer's instructions for your specific canner. Pints of chicken stock need to be pressure canned for 20 minutes. Quarts require 25 minutes according to the USDA guidelines. After 20 minutes, I turn off the fire and allow the pressure to come down naturally. Do not be tempted to remove that weight or speed up the depressurization. This can lead to an unsafe final product. It took about 45 minutes for the air vent to drop, indicating that the pressure was gone. I set a timer for another 15 minutes just to make sure before I opened the canner. I ended up with 23 pints of delicious chicken stock that we will put to good use over the next year. Thank you for stopping by the Old Mayfield place today. What are you going to get prepared this week? And have a blessed week.